Hey everybody, it's Brian Burns and welcome to this episode of Career Advice, hacking options, ideas, and just all about thoughts about your career. Today I want to talk about excuses. And this is something that we often allow to get into our way. And what we have to do is think about where we are and then where do we want to be, and all those things in between, whether it's learning something, meeting somebody, doing something, moving, actually doing the work, learning all the stuff that we have to do, thinking through the uncomfortable situations, interviewing, asking for a raise, trying a new application, a new approach, getting feedback. All of these things are in our way. They're excuses. And we try and avoid them as much as possible, as opposed to embracing them as part of building us, letting our tender little ego aside for a second and actually embrace this. And the people who learn the most and the fastest are the people who do embrace these obstacles. And what we have to do is find a way that works for us. Some people are grinders. They'll just bang through the wall and just do it. But they tend to not think through exactly which wall they're going through. And then there's the ponderers who just sit around and think about it or read a book and study it, get a degree in it, and then find out they don't like doing it or something. What I suggest about excuses is find out, what do you have control over exactly, and build a pattern into your life, focusing on the things that you do that you have control over, and understand that it is a process. It's not a destination. It's a journey. Career happiness is a journey. I look back at, my career until I started working for myself. There were periods of happiness, but it was when I focused on what I had control over and when I ignored pretty much everything else. The annoying boss, the annoying coworker, the unfair treatment, the economy, world events. And it sounds callous and maybe ignores maybe the wrong word. Maybe it's deprioritize those things and up-prioritize the things you do have control over. I mean, this is not Eureka items. This is really just having somebody else tell you this, to remind you of this, for you to come up with the things that you're going to do during the day, and don't put down things that you don't have any control over. You might have influence over other people. You might have persuasive skills over other people, but they're still going to do what's in their best interest. And knowing that and understanding that means that all you have to do is Judo, meaning align yourself with the forces of nature and move with them, instead of trying to be the salmon going up the stream and jumping over each other. That approach, people get burnt out on really quick. So when you're looking for your dream career, your ideal position, your happiness at whatever you're doing, understand that it is a daily process, and make it a daily process, and focus on, what do I have control over? You certainly have control over what time you go to bed and what time you get up. You have control over what you put into your body. You have control over what you do with your body, exercise and taking care of your body. You have control over the most important thing, your thoughts, what you put into your head, that consciousness that you have, whether you're positive or negative, whether you're optimistic or pessimistic, whether you're looking at the future, the past, or the present. All of these things can really be things that you have control over. And when you take the control over these very simple things, living in the moment, working towards the future, learning from the past, and not being a victim. You can be victimized, and I have been victimized. I went through a 2-year victimization event in my life where I had no control over it, essentially. A legal situation where I had to deal with it. I had no choice. I did absolutely nothing wrong, but it didn't matter. I was treated terribly, unfairly, and unjustly, and I could have, done some bad things. I could have let it really ruin my life, or it was hard for it not to distract me. That's for sure. But what I kept telling myself is, I'm being victimized right now, but I'm not a victim. I have control over what I do, what I think, what I focus on, what I put into my body, what I do with my body, and what I think about. Those three things alone will get you focused on the right things, because we live in this beautiful world today where everything is almost accessible to almost everybody. If you have access to the internet and a $200 Chromebook, you can learn almost anything as fast as you're willing to put the time and effort into it, and find mentors anywhere in the world that can help you do things. You can learn how to work with people, how to persuade people. My sales podcasts are all about that, how to fit into large organizations, small organizations, how to start your own company. All of this stuff is now available to you, but no one can input it into your head. You have to. You have control over that. You have control over how you take the feedback once you do it. You can blame somebody or say that they don't get you, or they didn't appreciate you, or they don't see the uniqueness of you. Or you can just say, look, I'm not perfect. One time when I was in my 20s, I gave up on blaming other people. And it was this Eureka moment that I had. And I remember the exact moment. I was very early 20s. And, I didn't do well in high school at all. I didn't enjoy it at all. But I was listening to these motivational tapes. And it was called The Psychology of Winning. And it was basically this type of stuff where the speaker, Dennis Waitley, it's kind of old school right now. It's kind of like Jim Rome or Norman Vincent Peale and all these people. But the thinking of that you are responsible for your life, that ownership, that personal responsibility is not a burden. It is a freedom. It is when you do that, when you take that control, you take it away from other people. You don't give it to other people. And when you take responsibility for your mistakes and stop using excuses, there are certain things you don't have control over, right? You don't have control over the weather. You don't have control over the traffic sometimes, or if a flight gets canceled, or if there's an economic meltdown, or there's been so many things. I remember, just 10 years ago, talking to a friend, it's like, when is it going to end? Because we had the financial crisis in 2008, that thing in the Gulf Coast where that oil thing kept going, and there was a bunch of other things that were going on. And all of a sudden, and then everyone was scared to death when Barack Obama became president. But now everyone's scared to death that we've got Donald Trump as president. And everyone forgot 8 years ago, it was the same kind of mayhem, just the complete opposite reasons. But you don't have control over it. I can't control over what Congress does or the political situations here in the U.S., but I do have control over what I do every day, what I think about, what I eat, when I go to bed, when I get up, and understand that I create my dreams, that I create my dream career, that I am willing to make the sacrifices and put in the effort to do it and to own it. And once you do that, and look, your excuses, most of them, you're right. You are. You may be too old or too young. You may be too this or that. You may be. I don't know. I don't know all of you. I know very few of you. But I've used those excuses before, and they don't help. Okay? If you're If someone else thinks you're too young, find somebody who thinks you're just right, that you're just the right person at the right time. You have to take control over that or try and persuade them. But focus on what you have control over, and don't try and rationalize any kind of failure. Focus on your success. Focus on the little bits of progress that you make. I tell people about this hack that I came up with where I put a year at a glance calendar on my wall, and I look at it. It's right next on the left-hand side of my desk, and I grade myself every day. And what ends up happening is I look at the days that I get A's, which are most, probably 80%. Some days I get B's because I didn't plan, or I screwed up, or I overlooked something. I didn't read all my LinkedIn in messages, or I missed a voicemail, or or I didn't get back to somebody in time and I hurt someone's feelings, and I give myself a B. And then there's times where I just, there's one F up there, where I just really blew it. I just kind of went in a different direction. It was 100% under my control. I owned it, and I look at it, and it guides me. That feedback guides me, and I wish I didn't do it, but I learned from it, and I won't make that mistake again. And so the lesson, I paid for the lesson, and I got it, and I earned it, and now I own it, and I won't repeat it. That's what we want. Instead of just keeping repeating it, thinking that you're a victim. You may be victimized, but you're not a victim. Focus on what you want. Focus on what you have to do to get it. Do it every day. Don't weigh yourself every day in every aspect of your life. I've got a buddy who weighs himself every day, and what ends up happening is that he'll work really hard one day and diet and exercise and do all the right things, and he gains a pound. And it may be for who knows what reason. I'm not a doctor. He may have drank too much water that night before, or whatever. I don't know. His pants might be heavier than the other pair of pants. The thing is, if you're looking for daily exact results, it's the wrong thing. If you grade yourself on how well you did that day, it's much better. That's why I grade myself every day, so I can look back at a month and I go, boom, that month was good. I'm looking at, there was 1 month this year I got straight A's, and I showed up every day. I did the work. Oh, wait a second. No, it was 1 B. No straight A's yet. So, hey, maybe that's my goal for May. But try it. You can get these calendars, and you can get those little pens that you can write on. The calendars like less than $30 on Amazon, so you can see the whole year. Why the whole year? Because everyone thinks a year is a ton of time, just an enormous amount of time, and it feels that way January 1st. But here we are. I'm recording this on May 9th, 2018, and we're almost halfway through the year, just a month and a half away from that. Memorial Day's coming up, halfway. It's scary. Time goes on. We don't have control over how fast it goes. We have control over what we do with it. So do what you need to do with it every day. And don't get on the scale. Get on the scale once a week, right? Or once a month. But if you're doing the right things every day, if you're eating the right things and you're exercising and whatever that analogy is for your career, you will get the results. Thanks for listening, and no excuses.